Hello everyone, this is Rick. Welcome to another episode of the Mauryan Empire. And today we are going to discuss about the Rock Edicts. Rock Edicts were patronized by Ashok. Emperor Ashok who was the third ruler of the Mauryan Empire. And in this video, we are going to discuss about all the 14 major rock edicts by Emperor Ashok. Hence, one by one, we are going to see where was their location, what was their motive, and what is the philosophy associated with it. So, without doing any delay, let's get into details. Understanding Ashok's major rock edicts introduce Ashok the Great as the third monarch of Indian Mauryan dynasty who ruled from approximately 268 to 232 BC. So Emperor Ashok was the third great monarch of Mauryan dynasty and he ruled from 268 to 232 BC. If you have gone through my last videos on the Mauryan series, you will know details about Emperor Ashok. Discuss Ashok's transformation after the Kaling War, which led to his embrace of Buddhism and subsequent policies of nonviolence and moral governance. So, after the Kaling War, which was fought in the province of Kaling in uh, currently the state of Odisha, Ashok changed his policy of conquest through wars and made it a conquest through Dhamma, which means conquest through the path of righteousness and moral ethics. Thus, Ashok becomes a ruler who was a warrior to a ruler who was a propagator of peace. Major rock edicts were inscribed to communicate Ashok's new policies of Dhamma across his vast empire. All the major rock edicts focus on the propagation of Dhamma, which means running the state or running one's life through moral and ethical principles. The geographic spread of these ethics across the Indian subcontinent and how they were rediscovered in modern era shedding light on Ashok's administration and ethical philosophy. So these edicts are written in multiple languages across the Indian subcontinent and thus we get to understand the influence of Ashokan Dhamma policy. If you want to know more about Ashokan Dhamma, I have made a separate video on that too. The significance of this edicts is very much in studying the history of ancient India and it provides insights into social, religious, and political life of the time. So, these edicts provide a significant information regarding the functioning of the government and how the people led their lives basing on moral and ethical principles. So we will start with Major Rock Edict 1. What was there in Major Rock Edict 1? Where was it found and what is its significance? Now, before going into details about the Major Rock Edicts, we must understand the fact that one rock edict was not there in one place only. It was put on in multiple places. Suppose here there is Major Rock Edict 1. This rock edict was written in multiple places across Indian subcontinent. Hence, one place is not reserved for one particular set of rock edict. It can have two or more than rock edicts in a single place. It is found in Kalsi, which is in Uttarakhand, Manshera, which is currently in Pakistan, Sahavajgari, once again in Pakistan, and Girnar in Gujarat. So, Rock Edict 1 has been found in these four main places. It is written in Prakrit language and in Brahmi script with Sahavasgari and Manshara in Kharoshthi script. So this set of writing is there in Prakrit language, in Brahmi script, in almost all the parts of India except Sahavasgari and Manshara where it is written in Kharoshthi script. And the language remains the same, that is Prakrit. It prohibits the festive gatherings and slaughter of many animals for consumption or sacrifice. So, slaughtering of animals for sacrificial purposes is banned in this rock edict. It introduces the concept of non-violence, which is ahimsa, towards animals and emphasis on moral values. So, ahimsa towards animals and emphasis on moral value is the base concept of this rock edict. It reflects Ashoka's early efforts to legislate morality and ethics within his empire. This is the earliest of the major rock edict, and it reflects the effort made by Emperor Ashoka to propagate the principles of morality and ethics within his empire. Now, Major Rock Edict 2. Once again, this has been found in Kalsi, Girnar, Sahavajgiri, and Mansera. So, again, Major Rock Edict 2 is there in four places of Indian subcontinent. It is written in Prakrit language and the script is Brahmi somewhere and Kharoshti in the northwestern parts. It orders medical treatment for people and animals and cultivation of medicinal plants and herbs. So this is a very humane inscription where medical treatment facilities are given not only for people but also for animals. And the emperor also instructs people to cultivate medicinal plants from which medicines can be made for future use. Establishment of hospitals and provisions for healthcare reflect a state concern for well-being. Here we can understand how much the Empire was dedicated to the well-being of its citizens, and citizens do not include the humans only, it includes animals too. And establishment of hospitals has been a significant event in this rock edict number 2. It indicates progressive administrative measures for welfare beyond human subjects extending to animals. So it is not only concerned about welfare of humans, it is also concerned about welfare of animals. Major Rock Edict 3. How is the Rock Edict 3 significant? Before that, we must understand that it has been found again in multiple places like Girnar, which is in Gujarat, Dhauli, which is in Orissa, and Bhabru, which is in present day Rajasthan. So, in three places, we find Major Rock Edict number 3. Primarily, it is written in Prakrit using the Brahmi script. So, the language is Prakrit and the script is once again Brahmi. It promotes practice of dharma through personal and societal moral conduct. So, the main principle behind this major rock edict number 3 is propagation of dharma, which once again, dharma here does not mean religion, it means righteousness. So, leading one's life through the principles of morality and discipline is called a dharmic way to lead life. And so, this rock edict number 3 propagates the practice of dharma. Appointment of Dharma Mahamatyas to oversee the practice of Dharma. This inscription also says that Emperor Ashok appointed dharmic officials whose duty was to see that the principle of Dharma is being maintained throughout the state. Emphasizes Ashoka's commitment towards spreading ethical and moral life choices. Now, in rock edict number 4, it is located in Girnar, Kalsi, Dhauli, and Bhabru. So, again, rock edict number 4 is located or has been written in four different places across Indian subcontinent. Once again, the language is Prakrit and the script is Brahmi. Ashok expresses his sorrow over the suffering caused by his conquest and emphasizes Dharma's victory. So here Ashok repents his warrior like activities and the wars he fought before his dharmic principles were propagated. So he expresses his sorrow over the suffering caused by his conquest of other territories and emphasizes that from now on I will practice the principle of dhamma, and that is how I will win over the world. Demonstrate a shift from belligerence to seeking conquest by moral and ethical means. So, here in this inscription, we see that his attitude towards the governance of his fellow citizens is changing from a shift from a shift towards dharmic principles. A significant insight into Ashok's personal transformation post Kaling War is depicted in Major Rock Edict. In Major Rock Edict 5, we get to understand that it was spread again in Ginnar, Kalsi, and other key locations. So, this has been a rock edict which has again been seen in multiple places. Once again, the script is in Brahmi and the language is Prakrit. Appointment of officers to oversee welfare of various religious communities. So, this is an inscription where we get to understand the tolerant mindset of the Mauryan Emperor Ashok. He was a Buddhist by nature, and but the state religion, even though it was Buddhism at the time of Ashok, he was tolerant enough to accept all other religious views, and he appointed different officials whose duty was to see that various religious communities were well off in their spiritual practices. It focuses on religious tolerance and administrative organization. So, religious tolerance is the basic principle of Rock Edict number 5. It showcases an early form of secular governance and religious pluralism. So, this is an inscription where we find an early form of secular governance and tolerance towards different kind of religious views. Major Rock Edict number 6. Once again, this has been found in the site of Girnar Kalsi Sopara in Maharashtra. The language is Prakrit and the script is Brahmi. Ashok describes his routine of being accessible to public and addressing their issues. So, in this inscription, we see Ashok to be very open to accessibility for the citizens. Citizens could come to him and speak about their problems, and emperor would try to solve it in the best way possible. So, here in Rock Edict number 6, Ashok describes how his routine has been set to suit the purposes of a troubleshooter for the citizens of his empire. It enhanced communication between the king and his subjects, aiming for transparency and accountability. So, there was a transparent system of governance where the subjects could communicate with the king, and thus the king was well aware of the functionalities in his governance. It demonstrates a unique form of governance focused on responsiveness and public engagement. So, here we get to understand that emperor was very much approachable, and thus we get a unique form of governance which was focused on responsiveness and public engagement. Major Rock Edict number 7. In this, we get to understand that once again, this edict calls for harmony among all religious sects within the empire. So, here again, we get to know the tolerant principle of Emperor Ashok, and so he calls for peace and harmony among all the religious sects. And here, religious sects means at that time there was Brahmanical philosophies, there were Ajivikas, there was Buddhism, Jainism, and many other tribal forms of religion which was existing at the same time contemporary to each other. Hence, he calls for harmony among all the religious sects. He promotes an understanding and tolerance between different religious groups. So, there must be tolerance and understanding between different religious groups in his empire. And he also advocates for religious coexistence and peace, reflecting a state policy for non interference in religious matters. So, state will not interfere in religious matters of the subjects, and therefore there will be a religious harmony among different communities living in his empire. Major Rock Edict number 8. How was Rock Edict 8 significant? And it is again located in Girnar and Kalsi. It is in Prakrit language and uses the Brahmi script to express the Prakrit language. It describes Ashok's personal pilgrimages to Buddhist holy sites and his efforts to enhance these places. So, Ashok personally visited the different pilgrimage sites related to Buddhism, and he uh, made efforts to restore and enhance these places with proper infrastructural facilities for the different pilgrims throughout the world. So here Ashok describes his personal journey towards different Buddhist pilgrimage sites, discusses Ashoka's change in royal tours from displays of power to religious journeys and teachings of dharma. So these tours, as described by Ashok, was not a mere projection of power. Even the projection of power was not emphasized when Ashok conducted all these tours, and his main focus was to display the religious journeys and to propagate the teachings of dharma. It indicates royal endorsement and personal support for Buddhism, promoting religious activities. So, from this edict, we come to know that Ashok personally endorsed, and there was personal sponsorship from the side of emperor to the religion of Buddhism. Major Rock Edict number 9. This is found in places like Girnar and Kalsi. Again, in the place of Girnar, basically we find all the major rock edicts, almost all the major rock edicts. It is written in Prakrit language and the script is again Brahmi. It denounces useless ceremonies and lavish rituals. So, this is a rock edict where Ashok condemns the lavish ceremonies and useless rituals which were in practice at that time. It advocates for moral purity and simplicity in life, criticizing the value placed on ritualistic practices. Ashok states that there is no use of elaborate religious and ritualistic practices, and one should lead a very simplistic form of life. It reinforces the shift towards ethical living over religious formalism, promoting a more introspective and virtue focused approach to spirituality. So, Ashok focused on the practicalities of spirituality rather than excessive rituals. So, this is an inscription where Ashok condemns the contemporary lavish ritualistic practices in different religion, mainly in the Brahmanical religion, which was very much prevalent at that time. Major rock edict number 10. It is again erected in Ginnar, Kalsi, and Sahavajkari. The language is again in Prakrit, and the script is in the northwestern part, it is in Kharoshti script, and in the northern part of the Indian subcontinent, it is in Brahmi script. Ashok rejects the desire for fame and glory, focusing instead on the welfare of his people. So, in this edict, Ashok describes that he has no intention to remain glorified in history. The only intention with which he is leading his life is to focus on the welfare of his subjects. It reflects on profound personal humility and renunciation of kingly arrogance. So he focuses on the fact that a king should not be arrogant or should not project his power just because he is a king. He should remain very humble and focus on the welfare of his subjects. It illustrates a key aspects of Ashok's moral and ethical revolution in leadership, prioritizing the common good over personal accolades. So, common good should be focused upon by the emperor, and personal glory should not be stressed upon by any leader of the government. That was what Ashok said in Rock Edict number. In Major Rock Edict number 11, it is again spread across Ginnar, Kalsi, Sahavasgari, and Sopara. Again, it is written in Brahmi in some places and Kharoshti in some other places, mainly the northwestern part, and the language is Prakrit. Extensive definition of dharma is provided in Rock Edict number 11, promoting welfare works, kindness to prisoners, and respect for all life forms. So, two of the most significant contributions of Emperor Ashok in whole of Indian history are can be read from Rock Edict number 11, and that is extensive definition of dharma. What is dharma and how one can lead their life by following the moral and ethical path to righteousness. And here we also get to understand how Emperor Ashok treated the prisoners of war. For the first time, we get an emphasis of kindness towards prisoners of war, which was very much significant considering that very cruel tortures were reserved for the prisoners of war in various parts of the world at that time. It emphasizes on concrete social and moral actions such as care for the aged, respect for the teachers and parents, and non violence. So, these are the rules which one can follow in their personal lives. That is, one can take care of the aged people who have been weak, and one should respect their teachers and parents and also follow the path of non-violence. It is fundamental for understanding Ashok's vision of a just society governed by universal ethical principle. So thus Rock Edict 11 is very much significant for properly understanding the philosophy of dharma. In Rock Edict number 12, once again it is in the places of Ginnar, Kalsi, and Savasgari. It is written in Prakrit language with Brahmi script in some places and Kharoshti script in some other places. It promotes respect among different religious sects, discouraging slander and praising of one's own religion over others. So, even though one can follow a personal religion of their own, but they have no right to defame or slander other religious sects or other religious philosophies, and that should be avoided by any means. One should respect the religious principles of other people also. It encourages the practice of respect and restraint in the discussions of faith. Important early attempt to create an interfaith dialogue and coexistence, underlining Ashok's commitment to a harmonious multi religious state. So, Ashok always emphasized a state principle where there will be different forms of religion living in harmony, and that is only possible when one does not defame the religious value of other people. Major Rock Edict number 13. It is the most significant and longest edict found in locations like Kalsi, Sahavasgari, and Ginna. So, the longest Ashokan Rock Edict is Rock Edict number 13. It is written in Prakrit and Brahmi and Kharoshti script. So, the language is Prakrit and the script is Brahmi and Kharoshti. Describes Ashok's conquest of Kaling, a resulting grief, and his subsequent embrace of Buddhism and peace. So, this is the Rock Edict where the war of Kaling has been described. In this Rock Edict, we get to know the number of deaths which occur in Kaling war, the number of prisoners. Every data has been given very properly, and also it has been stated that Ashok went to a state of grief and repentation after the war of Kaling, and thus he embraced Buddhism. This is very significant to note that here it is not written that Ashok converted to Buddhism after the Kaling war. He may have been a Buddhist long before the Kaling war, but it was after the Kaling War that he decided to follow the principles of Buddhism. He embraced Buddhism. He did not convert to Buddhism after the Kaling War. And thus, this inscription is very much significant in order to understand the scale of destruction of war in Kaling and what was its result in the form of governance. How did it influence the form of governance that Ashok undertook after the war in Kaling? It mentions Ashok's effort in spreading dharma to neighboring kingdoms and his emissaries to distant lands like Syria, Egypt, and Greece. So, from this inscription, we get to understand that the dharmic influence was not only reserved for Indian subcontinent, but it spread to distant lands like Syria, Egypt, and Greece also. It marks the transformation of an empire through remorse and adaptation of a policy of peace and nonviolence, reflecting both domestic policies and international relations. Now, Rock Edict number 14 is the last Rock Edict we will discuss, and it has been found once again in Kalsi, Ginnar, and Savasgari, and many other places also. Prakrit in both Brahmi and Kharoshti script. You must understand that when I say many other places also have this Rock Edict, that means in many other places there is a fragmented version of this Rock Edict. It may have been destroyed because of natural interferences. Hence, we are mentioning the names of places where a particular rock edict has been found completely in its original state without any kind of destruction. Hence, this rock edict has been completely found in this place of Kalsi, Girnar, and Savasgari, and in many more places it has been found in fragments. It is written in Prakrit language with the help of Brahmi and Kharoshti scripts, outlines the purpose of rock edicts and the intentions behind their installation across the empire. So, what is the intention behind installing these rock edicts across the empire that has been stated in Rock Edict number 14? So that people can read this and or it can be read out to people by an educated person, and thus the principles of Dhamma will be propagated across the empire. Expresses the hope that these edicts will endure and influence future generation towards moral governance. So Ashok hopes that these edicts will serve as a constitution of dharmic principles. Other future rulers will see these edicts and they will follow these principles in their own time of rule. That was the hope Ashok had expressed in all of these rock edicts, especially in rock edict number 4. This serves as a meta commentary on Ashok's entire project of moral and ethical governance intended to inspire both contemporaries and posterity in the path of Dhamma. So, this is an edict where directions are given to future generations of how they will lead their lives or how they will run their government basing on the principles of Dhamma. Here is a summary of main points of all the 14 rock edicts. You can take a screenshot of this and this will help you a lot to remember the basic principles of all the rock edicts. So rock edict 1 prohibits animal slaughter, bans festive gatherings and killing of animals. Number 2, medical care for man and animals, mentions Cholas, Pandyas, Satyaputra and Chera kingdoms of South India and Greek king Antiochus II and his neighbors. Rock Edict 3 shows generosity to Brahmanas issued after 12 years of Ashok's coronation. It says that Yuktas, who are subordinate officers, and Pradeshikas, who are district heads, along with Rajukas, who are rural officers, shall go to the all areas of kingdom every 5 years and spread the policy of Ashok. Rock Edict number 4 uh, names Dhamma Ghosha. The sound of Dhamma or righteousness is ideal over Veri Ghosha, that is sound of war. So Dhamma is above war. Rock Edict number 5 mentions every human is my child, and appointment of Dhamma Mahamatyas is mentioned in this edict. And also concerns about slavery has been the main principle of Rock Edict number 5. Rock Edict number 6 talks about king's responsibility towards welfare of people. Number 7 talks about tolerance towards all religions and sect. Number 8 describes Ashok's first Dhamma Yatra to Bodh Gaya and Bodhi tree. Number 9 gives importance to ceremonies of Dhamma, condemns popular lavish ritualistic ceremonies. Number 10 condemns the desire for fame and glory and puts the welfare of people above all. Number 11, Dhamma as a major policy to follow. It also includes respect for elders and concern for slaves and servants. Number 2 reflects tolerance among different religious sects, also written in Greek and in the Kandahar Greek edict of Ashok. So this edict has been written in Greek also. It mentions Mahamatyas in charge of women's welfare. So Ashok thought about women's welfare also. In Rock Edict number 13, it is the largest form of edict. It talks about Ashok's victory over Kaling and mentions his remorse for 500,000 killed or deported during his conquest by Dhamma. Mentions Ashok's Dhamma victory over Greek kings Antiochus of Syria, Ptolemy of Egypt, Magas of Cyrene, Makkah, Antigonus of Macedon, Alexander of Epirus. Also mentions rulers of Indian subcontinent like Pandyas, Cholas, etc. Rock Edict 14 describes engraving of inscriptions in different parts of country. So that was all about the 14 rock edicts and what are the major points in each rock edict has been described. Now, legacy of Ashok's major rock edicts. It is the pioneering role of Ashok in establishing ethical governance which sought the welfare of all subjects, including animals and plants, a concept ahead of its time. It must be pointed out that Ashok's effort in promoting religious tolerance and interfaith dialogue, as evidenced by his edicts, which call for respect among different religious groups. Ashok's philosophy of peace and nonviolence resonates with modern ideals and has influenced global leaders and movements, including the nonviolence movement of Mahatma Gandhi. So, these policies influenced many global leaders even in the contemporary times. The efforts to preserve these sites where edicts are found and their recognition as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, indicating their global historical and cultural importance. We must conclude with the timeless nature of Ashok's messages in edicts, stressing their continuing relevance in promoting peace, understanding, and ethical conduct in contemporary society. So, that was all about the 14 major rock edicts sponsored by Emperor Ashok and how each of them was significant in understanding the history of Indian subcontinent, especially the Mauryan age. Hope you have liked it and please support me so that I can bring brighter detailed contents in future. Thank you so much for your love and support.